Hello, math students, and welcome back to Module 1, Ratios and Proportional Relationships. Remember that that's the name of the module and not the lesson. This is Lesson 8, and the title of Lesson 8 is Interpreting Graphs of Proportional Relationships. Our goal: today we will use all of the information we have learned to interpret graphs of proportional relationships. The question that I want you to be thinking about is, what points are always on a graph of two quantities that are proportional to each other? So we're looking for specific points by the end of this lesson. Okay, the things to remember today. The things to remember are proportional relationships have a constant, and a constant is the amount that the x value changes to get the y value. So remember, your x value changes. And the thing I want you to remember about this changing part is that this is when you're either multiplying or dividing by the constant. So we're going to write a multiplication symbol, and you're going to write constant right there because that's how it's changing. So you take your x value and multiply it by the constant to get the y value. Okay? And that's how your amount changes and becomes something else. All right, so we have a task today. The task that I want you to be using is Grandma's special chocolate chip cookie recipe, which yields 4 dozen cookies, calls for 3 cups of flour. So what I would like to do up here, just as to make note, is it says that we are going to do cups of flour per dozens of cookies, because that's what the task just said. So we're setting up our rate so that we know what we need to be thinking about. Okay, so what we're going to do in this lesson is I'm going to teach you a new way to organize information so that you can check to see if the proportions are connected or they're related. So we're looking for a proportional relationship. And a new way to do that is to use the proportional chart. And you will notice that there are 6 sections to our proportional chart, and you have learned how to do all of these things. And so now we're going to use all of these things to check and see if the relationship is proportional. So in the first box of our proportional chart, it's always going to have the ratio table. And the ratio table for this example is flour per cookies. And it said up here in the story that it says for every 3 cups of flour, so remember these are cups, for every 3 cups of flour, there are 4 dozens of cookies, okay? And so we have 3 cups of flour, 4 dozen cookies, 6 cups of flour, so we doubled it. So what we did to get from 3 to 6 is we multiplied by 2. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other, so 4 times 2 equals 8. And then it's asking us to go down to 1. So what would that 1 right there signify? That 1 signifies your unit rate. And remember, what is your unit rate? Your unit rate is your constant. Very good. So we have to figure out how we're going to get the unit rate. So if 3 gives us 4 dozen cookies, how much would 1 cup of flour get? Well, you ask yourself, how did you get from 3 down to 1? And we say divide by 3. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. And so you have to take 4 divided by 3. And that's how you get it. Because this one, we took 3, and we divided by 3, and we got 1. So what you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So 4 divided by 3. And actually, another way to write 4 divided by 3 is 4/3. Okay, so for every 1 cup of flour, there are 4/3 dozens of cookies. Okay, so now what you have to do is you have to decide, is that table proportional? And I've taught you how to do that. So you're going to say 3 times what gives me 4? 3 times what number gives me 4? Well, to figure that out, all we have to do is we have to take a number and multiply it by 3 to get 4. So to figure it out, you're going to take 4 and you're going to divide by 3 because we're finding the unit rate. So 3 goes into 4 one time with 1 left over, so that would be 1 1/3. So this answer is 1 1/3. Okay, so now let's do the same thing. 6 times what number gives me 8? So again, you take the y value and you divide it by the x. So 6 goes into 8 one time with 2 leftovers, so that's 1 and 2/6, which simplifies to 1 and 1/3. Aha, so far so good, guys. Okay, and then how do you get from 1 to 1 1/3? So 1 times what number gives you 1 1/3? You already got it, 1 1/3, because 1 times any number. Now, what do you notice about this, kiddos? We found the constant. That's right, we found the constant. All of them are the same. It's a constant value being multiplied. So is the table proportional? And you get to write in this box, yes, because you have a constant. Okay, next box is going to tell you about your unit rate, and this is your unit rate right here. Remember, unit rate is per 1. So go back over here to your table where you found your per 1. Per 1 on this one says that it is 4/3. Well, I think we did that math right there where we took 4 divided by 3, 4 divided by 3, and it equals 1 and 1/3. So your M is your unit rate. Okay, so we have 1 and 1/3 is your M. M is another name for unit rate. And now the fourth box in our table to check is we now have to graph it. So remembering this is the X value right here. This is the Y value right here. This is the X axis over here. This is the Y axis up here. And now we need to graph. So the X axis is called flour, so cups of flour. So we're going to write it down here, cups of flour. And then on this one, we're going to write dozens of cookies, because that's what it said in the story. Okay, let me turn that back so you can see it. Okay, so we have those labels, and then we have to plot our points. So this is 0 right here, and then it says 1, and I actually, because I want us to be able to see it, I'm going to skip some. So I'm going to say this is a 1, and then I'm going to say that's a 2, that's a 3, that's a 4, that's a 5, and the last one is 6. So I skip counted on that one. On this, our highest number is 8. So I think if I skip count again, then I'll run out of room. So we'll just show every other one. So this is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. Okay, so there's those. All right, so now we have to graph our ordered pairs. We'll go back up to our table and we'll make our ordered pairs. So we have 3, 4 for the first one. We have 6, 8 for the second one. And we have 1, 1 and 1/3 for the third one. And then, boys and girls, I'm going to ask you, if you have 0 cups of flour, how many dozen cookies can you make? 0, because you have to have flour to make the cookies. All right, so now we're going to plot them. So we go over 3, up 4. We go over 6 and up 8. We go over 1 and up 1 1/3. So here's 1 1/3, so about right there. And then we have 0 right there. And then we check it to see if it makes a straight line when we collect them. And I'm using my ID, which is what you can use to make your straight line. And lo and behold, is it a straight line? The answer is yes. Okay, so the graph, does it go through the origin? Yes. Does it have a constant? Yes, the constant's right here. Does it make a straight line? Yes. So is the graph proportional? You get to write yes down on the bottom. All right, so then the last thing that you have to do using this proportional chart is you have to write the equation. And we learned about equations in the last lesson. That is y equals mx. Y, remember, is your output. Okay. M is your constant or your unit rate. And x is your input, right? So any number you put in multiplied by the constant gives you y. So what number, looking up here, did we have to multiply by the x value to get the y value? What number was it? You're absolutely right, 1 1/3. Okay, so our equation is y equals 1 1/3 x. And that's how you write the equation for that one. Okay, so that is your proportional chart. So for every instance that you have to work with in a task, it's going to ask you to put it through these 6 things to choose and see if it's a proportional relationship. Okay, so it's just another tool, another way to help organize all the stuff that we've been learning. All right, so now let's go to the next page and we're going to answer these questions. sorry. On the graph, what do the ordered pairs represent? This one is the origin, so you're going to write origin. Okay, and then it says on the graph, what does 3, 4 represent? It means for every 3 cups of flour, there are 4 dozen cookies. Okay, all right, 6, 8 on the graph, for every 6 cups of flour, there are 8 dozen cookies. Okay, and that's what it means on the graph. The other thing that you can include for the 0, 0, other than it being the origin, it would also be for every 0 cups of flour, there are 0 dozens cookies. Okay, so that's another thing to keep in mind for your ordered pairs. How do you identify the unit rate on the graph? Everybody, if you look on the graph, where is the unit rate? How do you find the unit rate on the graph? The answer to that is go to the x value of 1. So we're going to go to the x value of 1 and find out where we stop on the dot and tell where the dot sits. And on this graph right here, so we go to the 1 and tell where the dot sits, it sits at 1 1/3. So that is your unit rate on the graph. Okay? What quantity is represented by the horizontal axis? What quantity is represented by the horizontal axis? The answer to that one is cups of flour. Okay? What quantity is represented by the vertical axis? And you should be able to remember that one. Dozens of cookies. Okay? What does the 3 in the ordered pair mean? What does the 4 in the ordered pair mean? What is the unit rate? Okay, kiddos, I want you to answer these 3 questions by yourself according to this table right here, or to this graph right here. So you have to figure out, what does the 3 represent? What does the 4 represent? And then you also have to tell me what is the unit rate for the Grandma's Cookies task. Okay, so those are the 3 things I'm going to be checking in your notes tomorrow. So in your answer section, if you're doing option 2, you need to answer these 3 questions. If you're writing out the notes, you need to answer these 3 questions. Okay, so let's go back to our goal for today. Today we will use all the information we have learned to interpret graphs of proportional relationships, and we did that. That's why we have this cool chart, because it incorporates everything we've been learning for the last couple of weeks. What points are always on the graph of 2 quantities that are proportional to each other? One that is guaranteed to always be there if it's proportional is the ordered pair of 0, 0, the origin. So that's one. The other one that is always there, no matter what, is the unit rate. So the answer to those questions are the origin, 0, 0, and the unit rate, the answer per 1. All right, kiddos? That's all I have for you in this lesson today. I'll see you all later. Bye!